You know that feeling when your track is almost there, but something's missing? That's where Con 417 comes in. Edgar Diaz and his team offer professional music production, mixing, and sound engineering that takes your sound from good to unforgettable. Whether you're recording at 2 p.m. or 2 a.m., Con 417 is ready because where music never sleeps, your creativity doesn't have to either. Ready to elevate your tracks? Visit edgarsdiaz.com, that's EDGARSDIAZ.com, or tap the link in the description to send your tracks to Edgar Diaz today for professional mixing and sound engineering. EdgarSDiaz.com, where music never sleeps. Find them online or check them out on Instagram at EdgarSDiazMusic. Welcome to the fourth season of Heard, Afros Audio Interview Series. I'm your host, Talib Jasir, and today my guest is Eteng Ettah. How are you?
Good. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for this platform. I think it's incredible how you're spotlighting every single day Black podcasters.
I'm excited to talk to you as well and really get to know the folks that are in our community better, see what we're doing and amplifying the work. And you've got some amazing work behind you, so I can't wait to jump in. All right?
Yes.
For folks meeting you for the first time, how do you usually describe who you are and the kind of work you're drawn to?
Absolutely. So like you mentioned, my name's Eteng Ettah. I like to say I've raised by both Nigerian immigrants and MTV. So I am somebody who, by day, I do a lot of brand and cultural strategy, which essentially is how are we using pop culture, media, etc., to get folks to consider different social issues, different perspectives. So I like to live at this intersection of TV, film, and media, and what that says about our society currently, but also how it can serve as a window into what could be possible.
Yeah, a window is right. It's something for creatives of all mediums to understand how we are showing up exactly as we are, showing our lived experiences, our beliefs, our thoughts, all of that stuff that we are laying record for. And none of it is trivial. Sometimes people think, okay, this is just pop culture, or this is just opinion, but it's actually something that somebody believes and thinks, considers day to day. And also pop culture is exactly what our society is in this moment. What's more important than that? We've documented it every decade, every year, and now is no different. We're active historians in the moment, no matter what it is, whether it's pop culture or actual history.
Yeah, anybody who will say, oh, it's just TV, I'm like, one, we are getting inundated with messages about what we should believe, what is valuable, what's not. And so that's why I love doing pop culture writing and commentary, because I think it's just such a great and ripe entry point to learning about different social issues. So Abbott Elementary is one of my favorite TV shows that's currently out. Whether you love it or not, this is a show that like millions of people are sitting down and watching. And I think as a result of that alone, like it's important to contend with what are the literal messages it's sharing, but also what's the subtext. That's what I'm always interested in exploring a little more.
Yeah, the subtext is important because critical thinking is important and something that we've gone away with as a society. But if we think about television's inception and entertainment and media in general, news, it was a rebranding of sorts. It was an opportunity to say something different from our actual lives. We are seeing the ills of society. We're seeing what's going on. And then television is showing us this other experience. It's like, oh, wait, why is my experience? Okay, but that's fine. Right. But being able to see the world that we're in right now, the ways in which life is really starting to say, wait a minute, none of that is accurate. And the way you've been portraying yourself, the way you've been showcasing these experiences is not parallel to what people are actually experiencing. And how important is it that we are documenting it not only in the visual space, but now here in podcasting where anyone can do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword in that I love that compared to the media landscape, you know, even the 2000s, 90s, but even further back, it was very top down. So you needed to get the New York Times to care about what's going on in your community. So I like that we have a media landscape that's a lot more participatory to your exact point, anybody, which I did too, went out and got a microphone and started sharing about different things. So it's amazing that more people can be making their own media. But then on the flip side, we're in this situation now where like misinformation and anybody can say anything. And if you just say it with the right tone, a lot of people can just believe whatever you're saying. And so it's tricky, and it makes me think about how much more dynamic we need our media literacy to be, because there's so many different ways that you can get information, but it's not always clear whether it's accurate or not.
For sure. And now that we're seeing podcasters, bloggers, and anyone that kind of is in those lanes having more access to things that used to be for journalism or journalists, reporters, now you can go into a courthouse as a blogger, as a podcaster, hear the same rules and regulations that they're giving over to journalists who have been trained and have techniques around this. And the blogger and the podcaster who isn't specifically trained, there's some who are, but are specifically trained, are gaining access to this and not really recognizing the responsibility around having the access. And as you speak about what those opportunities are, but also where we really have to level the playing field in understanding what's so important about media, entertainment, and how we share it. I think that's what's going to move us into the 2026 and beyond, is people really recognizing, by force or by choice, the responsibility of media and having a microphone.
Yes, 100%, 100%. And my heart goes out to journalists. There was a time in high school I went to this journalism and media camp, realized that I was interested in comms and media making, but not journalism. And I know there's so many ways that like traditional journalism is being impacted by social media and X, Y, and Z. And so I feel you 100% on it is a responsibility to have a platform and to be really mindful of what you're sharing, because people are listening and making choices or changing behaviors based off of what you're hearing. And especially now that we're in a time where our news media has paywalls on it, so it's easier to see what's going on in the shade room versus platforms where trained journalists, like you're saying, are putting really critical reporting. Definitely it's a responsibility I take very seriously.
Yeah, I appreciate your take on it, especially from the background that you have. You hosts Consider This for Comfort, a show centered on why certain TV becomes emotional refuge. What made comfort television feel worthy of deeper analysis?
Yes, I love this question. As someone who loves TV and dissecting it and pulling out all the meanings and all of that stuff, I knew I wanted to host a show about TV, but I was like, what is the specific frame that I want to use for this? And so I think it came to me in a dream or something like that. But as soon as I landed on comfort TV as the frame, I was like, okay, we're off to the races. And so it feels like a really, honestly, like uncharted territory that we're using comfort to consider, one, our media elicits an embodied experience. And when people hear a comfort TV show, folks can think about, oh, I want a show that is going to give me escapism. I've had a really stressful day. I want to turn off my brain. Or I've heard folks be like, I want to watch a show where a character is going through some sort of challenge that is resonant to what I'm going through, so I'm feeling less alone or isolated, like I'm not the only person dealing with this thing. And so it felt like a really cool frame because everybody has a comfort TV show. Like, I think for the most part, whether you're an avid TV watcher or not, there is some show that either takes you back to a particular time for folks who are like deeply nostalgic, but something comes to mind. And so I liked that as a accessible entry point. I think it also underscores that like TV is not just TV, right? If this thing regulates your nervous system or inspires you to take a leap, like that is really exciting and I think is worth making meaning from. And so that's, you know, a little bit why it felt important. And there's so many different TV podcasts and some of them get really technical really quickly. And I've been grateful to have folks in the industry on the show. So writers, development folks, producers, but I also wanted anybody to be able to come onto this show. So it's like, You don't need to know the ins and outs of like cinematography or how studios buy shows, but it felt really important to know, as long as you have felt an emotional connection to a TV show, this is a podcast that you are going to find some sort of insight from.
I love that you have created such a niche. Like, okay, it could be this, it could also be that, but I'm going to create it for this specific purpose. And that's so important, to be considerate of the consumer out there. That's really like, I don't even know why this resonates with me. So I don't know why I can't stop watching Abbott, and why these characters, whether I'm in education or not, they speak to me. I know that personality in my neighborhood, or that woman is in my family, or these kids that are all around, and being able to look inside of these different mindsets and perspectives. I really appreciate that about the show. And kudos to you for getting off the ground, getting it out there, and doing the work. What has it been for you from start to now that you're at this point into the podcast? How has it changed and shaped you?
Yeah. I love the question. So, I mean, this idea has been in my mind for much longer than it's been in existence. I think about the ways that I appreciate having created a project that I completely own, and from everything from what's the essence of it going to be. So I knew I didn't want it to be highly technical. I wanted to feel like two friends over happy hour, like gossiping and going back and forth. So having control of the essence, having control of what's the branding going to look like, what are the specific segments. I started this project at a time where I was trying to figure out, how do I just do my own thing? Like, I was trying to shoehorn it into other things, and I was like, oh, let's just do it on our own, because you then have like that creative control. So it's honestly been very empowering to have something that I feel like I am able to be really clear about what my voice is and not ask permission. Can we say that? Can we say this? It's like, oh, I'm the boss, so I can do whatever I want. But it's also been really inspiring and heartening to hear the reception so far. Like, there's so many things that I want to do to like get this out in front of more people. And so the people who have heard it, really great feedback of, it's clear that you really love to do this. Like, I can hear that in the actual show, and I can hear that in the way you're going back and forth and laughing with your guests. And so it's very empowering and honestly very affirming and confirming that this is the type of work that I want to be doing more. So I think ultimately, like, the show has just made me feel more confident in being like, this is the type of work that I want to do, the type of conversations that I want to be having. And already having seen the fruits of my labor is really exciting. And it's also felt very natural. So I think very much a testament to when you are doing and creating in your purpose, it all falls together. It feels very natural. And even in moments when we're in the editing trenches and the not fun stuff, I still find myself really enjoying. So it just confirms that this pop culture, society, culture commentary lane is one that I want to do. And I'm finally doing it my way on my terms.
Yeah. It's amazing what sovereignty and liberation of owning your own platform can create for a person. So I love that. And a lot of pop culture coverage stays surface level. What were you hoping to open up by slowing down and asking what our comfort shows say about us?
Yeah, I think a lot about what you were saying earlier about critical thinking, but also, we're constantly inundated with different messages. So it feels really important for us to still feel a little bit in control of our media consumption, and not only our understanding, but having an idea of, how does it feel when you watch this thing? What is the embodied experience? Because we experience a lot of media, especially if you're doom scrolling, which I'm personally trying to do a lot less. It's making folks anxious. It's making folks angry. Like there's something important about that insight. And so it also felt really important to show folks media that is eliciting more positive experiences, since we're very aware of the types of media and shows that we don't like. But I think there's a lot of power in lifting up what are things that we do like. I think also as consumers of media, we do hold a lot of power, And so if we get clear about we love Abbott Elementary because of the sharp commentary or because we're seeing really great representation, right? The ways that we consume that media, studios are also paying attention. And then I like to think like we could start some sort of ripple effect of getting a media landscape that's one that we see ourselves in, that can support us in like making us feel grounded in our day-to-day, that can offer solace, especially in times like now where there's tremendous economic and political upheaval happening. And it also feels like something people don't do often. So a lot of my guests have said, yo, I really had a great experience because I haven't had the invitation to consider why I like this show and what is it about this show that's doing it for me. And then with those insights, how can that then inform what you choose to watch and how you put your time into what you do outside of your day-to-day?
Yeah, super important. We are, as a society, as a people, we are simply in motion on a regular routine basis. And for people to be able to take a moment to find out what resonates, like discover, exploration, curiosity, that's something that I believe has been marketed out of the consumerism of watching, listening, experiencing. And really understanding why it is that you gravitate to something is a window inside. And that's something that's really important as our society works very diligently to distract us, not only from ourselves, but with media that doesn't serve, support, or challenge us to think differently, be differently, or anything like that. So I really appreciate that work and the intentionality behind it, because it is super important. And I'm curious if you remember when the idea shifted from this would be fun to this is something I actually need to make.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think about, one, I'm someone who's always trying to have fun and have a good time. So that's like
thing.
the undercurrent of like walking to the grocery store and I'm like, if there's a way to make this more fun, like I feel like the experience of fun and joy and being unseriousness is something that I'm like constantly trying to incorporate into little things. But I think things went from this is fun to like, okay, this is what I feel like I'm meant to do. Probably when it started, when the podcast started coming out and starting to hear a lot of the impact that it was having on guests who had come on, or I think about my family members and sharing the link with them and them being like, oh, it is very clear to us that this is something that you enjoy, that you're really good at, and that you should continue doing. And I also think it's something that I've done day to day. So like there's so many friends that I'm like right now mid texting about this show and that, and what does this say about this? And so it feels like this like media analysis and this intersection that I sit on has been something that I've naturally been doing all the time and will do in my spare time. And I think the reception is when I started to see like, oh, this is something that could really take off. Like if you are down to put in additional work or time and X, Y, and Z and can get this in front of people, a lot of cool opportunities could come from this. So I think I've always like known it, but there is something about finally putting yourself out there and feeling relief of like, okay, I've known that I think this is cool. I think about when I talk to people about the concept when I'm just like out in the world or at some sort of event and people are like, oh, you've got something here. So I think that feels like the moment where that transition happened. But I also feel like it's something that's been very embodied too. So I don't want to fully say other people gave me the permission, but I think the combo of I'm finally getting this idea out of my head and I'm like, okay, this was meant to be in the world. That's probably why I was sitting in my head for many years.
Yeah. I really respect that. I appreciate that transparency. And a lot of creators keep stuff in their head and their hard drives for way longer than we love to admit. But it's a thing. So you don't have to really admit it for us to know it's a thing. But to have that reception is also important. We don't want to seek outside validation, but it helps. It absolutely helps to not have to wonder for too long, is my mic actually on? Is anyone listening? Doesn't matter is something that can continue to come up as well. So that supports your listeners, your audience. Yeah, I really think that as we continue on as creators and do this work, the exploration, as I mentioned before, is going to be so important. And do you feel like in this moment that you're still exploring where this is going to go?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do a seasonal format right now. As long as I'm a team of one, the seasons is what makes it a lot more sustainable. But at the end of every season, I'm constantly thinking about what episodes performed really well. Were there specific segments that we want to bring in? And I think the experimentation is some of my favorite part about this. So in season 4, that's airing February through April, I'm introducing a new hotline segment. So I've always loved advice columns, and I've always loved like call-in shows. So essentially having folks call in and share some sort of dilemma that they're going through. So whether it's you're looking for a new job, you want to start dating again, you're in New York and it's really cold and you're sad about it. So calling in and sharing that, and then I responding with a TV show, not only one that I think you would like, but I think that'll offer you some perspective. As a way to further demonstrate, right, it's not just TV, like we take inspiration and cues and things like that from TV shows, in addition to them just being entertaining. And so I love, again, going back to what I was sharing earlier of how freeing it feels to just have your own creative project. Like, one, I think that segment will be a great marketing strategy, and like I think it fits the tone of the show, but also I think it's fun and it's cool and I want to do it. And so I like this early stages where I'm like, okay, like what are these things that you have always wanted to do? I think it's going back to there's still things in my head that I want to do. And so now that I've seen the benefits of getting things off the hard drive, like each season I try to be like, okay, what's that idea that's been sitting in your head that you haven't done? Let's see how it goes. And I think it's very true to the essence of the show. Like, I think that's also why when I thought about what I want the vibe to be, I didn't want it to be overly technical and rigid. So that, okay, now she's doing a hotline segment. That makes sense. This is a fun, insightful show, but we're having a lot of fun too. So it fits strategically. And it feels more important that I want to do it and experiment. So that's definitely a big one around like segments. I'm constantly thinking about the different types of guests that I want to bring on. So this current season, I've got comedians in the mix, which I'm really excited about. I feel like I've always admired comedians, and especially shows. And I know we keep talking about Abbott Elementary, but the comedy show that can be both very funny, but also doesn't downplay the reality of the situation. I think comedians are people who have their finger on the pulse. They have to be one with the people in order for their stuff to be really good. Mm-hmm. And so that's an example of like, oh, there's this whole group of people that we're doing similar things. We're giving you the insight, but we're delivering it in a way that feels really accessible. And yeah, thinking about, okay, who are the different types of people that can be on this show who do this type of work, but might not describe it in the same way that I would.
That's so cool. And as you mentioned, building up that confidence that gives you permission to iterate, to explore and experiment and evolve the show is so important. And sometimes creatives, and especially podcasters, they start thinking more external than internal. Like, what do I want to create? What do I want to share for someone else to experience? And to be tapped into that as a creative, as a podcaster, and all the other work that you do, it brings something special to the medium. And it shows that this doesn't have to look like one thing the whole time. It can shift, it can change, it can evolve. I can pick things up, I can put them down, I can keep them, right? And that's the opportunity, again, for your own platform and not having to wait for someone else to okay an idea. So I think that's really important. I love that. And I'm curious about your conversations that you have, the people that you interview. Starting out a podcast, I didn't know I was going to meet Eteng and be able to talk to you. And so even in that access of creating a podcast that you wanted to experience yourself, what has that been like?
Yeah, that's been a really big journey too, because I think There's so many levels to podcasting. We understandably really zero in on the production element, but the marketing, like how am I speaking about this if I am in an event and somebody I really would love to have on the podcast, but I only have 30 seconds. That skill has been something that I've been learning throughout the way. I'd say from season 1 to season 2, I call those the like friends and family seasons. Shout out to my community. They've been hearing about this idea for so long, and I'm sure they're finally excited that like, okay, she finally did it and is not just talking to us about it. So the first season, it felt really obvious to me that like, okay, I want to bring on my friends who have been supporting this idea, who I naturally am also talking about TV with. We already have that like built-in rapport, so I felt like folks that I really know are going to be able to really embody the essence of what I want this show to feel like. And then that'll give me the insights that I need as I start branching out to people that I'm not friends with. Season 3 and season 4 in particular is the season where it's the least friends and family. So I'm like meeting people on a recording for the first time. And so having to think about what is the kind of like pre-show banter so we can get warmed up. I've also been doing a lot more cold emailing. So folks that I've been like, I've seen you on Instagram, so we'll like send them a DM and be like, hey, really admire what you're doing. I have this podcast, would love to talk to you more about this. I feel grateful that even like the cold emails or cold DMs that I've sent, folks are like, oh yeah, this makes sense. And it's great to already have a body of work to be like, okay, I'm not a random person. This is legit, and you can check out the 20 plus episodes that already exist. Yeah, I think we're naturally, as I've gotten out of the like friends and family, I'm now thinking about who are culture commentators that I really admire. Like who are folks who, there's tons of people who are hosting companion podcasts for TV shows. Mm-hmm. And so what does it look like to reach out to them? And I saw something either on TikTok or Instagram that was like, you can just hit up anybody. You can really just email anybody. I think this project has been a lesson in not self-sabotaging, because there's so many reasons that we will invent for ourselves of like, oh, I have to wait until I have 50 episodes before I can reach out to, I don't know, a Trevor Noah. And it's like, actually, I think something I'm also learning is the people who are the most audacious, who are like, I'm just going for it, more often than not are experiencing a lot of success. And so I'm definitely in a place where I'm like, okay, if I admired you, I'm going to reach out, and the worst that happens is a no, or they never get back to you. But, you know, that quote that's like, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Yeah, I think a lot about people that I admire and who I draw like my cultural commentary inspiration for, and am like, all right, let's hit them up and see.
That's it. Listen, if they exist, you have access to them. Doesn't mean that they're going to respond, but it means you have access to them.
Exactly.
Yeah, go for it. Take what's yours. Absolutely. I love that. And it's so obvious that you have the passion for this and you care about what it looks and feels like for your audience, but you first. And that is one of the most important aspects of creativity, is making sure that it's exactly what it is that you want to create and you want to experience. So I really appreciate that, and just want more creators to feel that sovereignty in creating something of your own. And in your Emmys episode, you brought back past guests in a fast, collaborative way. What did that experiment teach you about your audience and your own creative range?
Yes. That was the first time I'd ever done an episode like that. So something I was thinking about was, because I batch record my episodes, I'm constantly thinking about, if I recorded something in July and it's not coming out until September, how do we make sure this feels timely? And when I realized that season 3 was going to air across the Emmys, which for folks who aren't familiar with the Emmys, it is the Super Bowl of TV. So I was like, I have to do something around this. Let me bring back a bunch of people whose shows just happened to be nominated. So that felt very natural. And another example of me taking a creative leap. So I shared at the beginning of that season, here's all of the episodes and here's the schedule. And I just put it on there. And sometimes for me, I'm like, if I put it out there, even if I haven't figured out the details yet, I now need to do it. It kind of lights a fire under like, okay, people are expecting something about the Emmys to come out. So I put that out there first because I was like, this is going to force me to actually do it. I can't be like, oh, it's going to be too much work or X, Y, and Z. So that was really great. I'm a fan of external accountability. So it's on this schedule. So now I got to do it. And then the folks that I brought back, I had texted them and was like, hey, I have this idea. I know you just recorded an hour with me. I need maybe like 15 minutes tops of us just going back and forth, you sharing your predictions. It'll be really fun. It'll be really light. I feel grateful again for these guests who are like, we're down for anything you say, just let me know when and where. And then this is not sponsored by Riverside, but shout out to Riverside because at this stage of my production skills, I was like very comfortable with Riverside and knew technically, okay, I know how to literally piece this together. And so I think it's a really great example of both creative experimentation, but like the insights you learn along the way. Like I think about me in season 1 thinking about you're going to bring together 4 people and it's going to be back to back, but you need to make it seem like we were all in the same room together. I would have been like, yo, I have no idea how to do that. But it was super fun. And honestly, it's something that I plan on doing for the Oscars, even though this will be the first time I depart from just TV. But again, I'm the boss, so I can do whatever I want.
For sure.
But it was really fun. And it also, from a marketing standpoint, now I have 4 guests who can all promote this episode. Like, so many things kind of came together. Again, this kind of combo of creative freedom and experimentation that also naturally works with podcast marketing best practices. I feel lucky to be able to check off both of those boxes with that episode. I have a whole calendar of here are all the awards moments. Like everyone is thinking about TV and people. I mean, I think awards season is an example of it brings up a lot of emotions. And so I'm like, we are all invested in something around award season or would love for this thing to win.
Yeah, you're rooting for your favorites. To quote Issa, rooting for everybody black. But yeah, it's important, and that's his own validation for these actors and folks who have put a lot into their own work and craft. So yeah, that's super dope. And you talked about stopping the question, what do people want? And starting with, what do I want to create? What changed for you once you made that shift?
Yes. So before this concept came to my mind in the ways that it's out in the world, I was like, okay, we're finally going to do something. This was maybe like 2022, 2023. So TikTok is everywhere. And so I found myself being like, okay, what do people want? Like, I want this to be successful and I want it to be visible and I would like to incorporate monetization. And so I felt myself being like laser focused, doom scrolling to see what's going viral and like, how could I potentially do that? And it wasn't until I saw some TikTok creator who was like, my advice to people who want to create is actually to get off TikTok because there's so many, and this is not an anti-TikTok rant. This applies to everything of like, we're inundated with so much. And so I found myself whenever I'd have an idea and then I'd be looking on my feed and I'm like, oh, I have to do it this way or I have to do it that way. And so just never felt grounded and never landed on something I actually wanted to do. And so I really take that advice of get in a corner away from the internet and really clarify, what do you want to create? What is my actual voice? And then the ways that things flow when you are creating in your purpose is absolutely tremendous. And so think about the fact that people see the end product. So you see the episode on Spotify or you see it on my Instagram. What you're not seeing is me waking up at like 4 a.m. editing these episodes before my day job. And so I also was like, you got to like this thing, not just during the glory days when people are like, oh, that's such a great idea. You got to like it when, I'm half asleep and I waited to the last minute to edit this episode. Do you still like it in that moment? That's when you're creating what you want to create. And so it's even those moments, as someone who I'm not a morning person, but even the moments when I'm in the trenches like that, I'm still like, this is great. I feel like I'm in my purpose. But if you're feeling stuck about what you want to do, I feel like sitting in a room by yourself and trying to clarify for yourself is so powerful. And obviously we take inspiration for other people. But I think if you're still trying to figure out that concept, at the end of the day, it's your work and you've got to do it. So it just opens so many things up. And now on the other side, it feels like, duh, like, of course you should be creating something that you like. Again, it's very easy to be like, okay, these types of podcasts are popping off, so I have to do it this way. And it's like, you got to do it for you. And the internet is vast. And I'm somebody who believes like the people will come. Like, I think it's important to have an abundant mindset. Because if I didn't, it would have been very easy to be like, there's billions of TV podcasts. Why would I want to start this one? But yeah, the abundance of like, you have your audience there. People want to hear what you genuinely want to say versus you trying to say what you think you're supposed to say.
Yeah. That'll take you off your own trajectory very quickly. And it's not sustainable at all because you're trying to do something that's not yours.
Exactly.
And or not you. And so that doesn't last long. And so you find, and I've found that a lot of creators that I resonate with, we have a high value on originality. Originality is so much the focus that we don't even create because we think that everything is the same. And I don't want to fall in that. And that's its own trap. So your advice about consuming with intention, even if intention is fun and escapism, but also inspirational, something that you can remix, something that you can build off of, but also creating way more than you consume. If you're a creator out there, work really hard to create more than you consume, or at least have a fair balance, and not to go into the trap of just taking in any and everything. I love the advice where it says, put more things on social media than you consume, because then again, you're being inundated with everyone else's messaging. And it can make you feel very insignificant when, in fact, what you put out there, you specifically, can be one of the most impactful opportunities for yourself as a creator, and also for those who get a chance to see it and listen to it. So I really appreciate that. And your work often sits in that intersection of media, society, and imagination. What do you think Comfort TV reveals about what people are carrying right now in this moment?
Yes. Yeah, we're in a particular moment right now, for sure. I think from conversations with friends, but also thinking about folks that I've interviewed for this current season, a lot of people who are really interested in the ways that Comfort TV offers connection in a communal moment. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of my guests will, when they are asked what their Comfort TV show is, it's usually something from back in the day. And so when they're talking about what is it about this show that does it for them, they're often talking about, I was sitting around with friends, or I was sitting around with family, or back when live tweeting was in its heyday, I was like on the internet or on Reddit, like also being like, oh, I love this character, or oh, this storyline inspired that. Like a lot of folks are really yearning for connection and that communal feeling that I think Comfort TV offers. And I think one of the downsides, again, everything has pros and cons. With the streaming era, we have access to so much. So like in theory, more TV shows can maybe get greenlit or can just exist or be able to find their audience. But what we lose is that everyone's watching it. It's a lot more of an isolating experience, because unless you're intentional about, hey, we are going to sit down on Saturday and binge watch this whole show together. But there was something about TV back in the day where like that audience that, you were all sitting on the couch together, is a part of the experience. I feel like folks are seeking or interested in ways where we can do connection. I also think there's a lot of nostalgia with comfort TV shows. So a lot of folks are rewatching shows from like their childhood. So like I'm thinking about, and the show is a little problematic, but America's Next Top Model, they're coming out with a Netflix documentary series. I'm very excited to see how they'll dive into all of that. But when I think about that show, I think about bonding with my mom and us watching that together. And I also think about my friends who also watch that show. And so there's definitely a yearning for the before times. Now, when we do think critically about like what was going on, like in the 2000s or the 90s, we have a little bit of this like rose-colored glasses thing, because there were also problems and issues and political upheaval also, but it's a really intense time. And so I'm finding that folks are like wanting the comfort show that can offer some escapism or can just let them know that like you are not alone. What is the community and connection element of this? And I also think at times like this, comfort shows can remind us that there are still good things happening. There are still good people out there. The fact that, people came together and wrote this story that is resonating with folks years, decades later, like that means something. And I know we want to be very grounded about the reality of the situation, but I do think it is a good reminder that like there are still good things happening. Those don't make the cover. That doesn't go viral. And so I think it's very easy to think that like the evil and X, Y, and Z is like so dominant, which it's there, but I think it's very easy for us to downplay that like there's still so many amazing things happening in the midst of a lot of really scary things happening too.
Yeah, and always has been. Creativity and artistic expression has always existed at the same time of the evils of humanity, and societal ills. And we have managed to be resilient, continue to create, and share the beauty of this experience, because this is an experience that we're all having. And it's important that creativity still shines through it at all. It must. So you've expanded into your newsletter, Eteng Ettah. How do you think about building a cultural universe instead of just a single show?
Yeah, absolutely. Now that I have successfully launched this podcast and I'm like, okay, it is clear what you can do, what you can create. The newsletter comes in because it made me think about, there's so many people I admire that also have these ecosystems. And so I'm like, what does it look like to be building my own media ecosystem, etc.? So Eteng Ettah comes in. I call it a companion newsletter to the podcast, but I think for folks who subscribe, they'll find that there's so much more in there. I think similar to how the podcast just confirmed that these are the types of conversations I want to lead, it also confirmed that this is the types of things that I want to write about too. So I used to write a lot more, and then you become an adult in life and X, Y, and Z. And so it became clear to me that like, oh, I don't have any issues writing when it is something that I'm really passionate about. And taking the momentum of like what I learned and the insights there, I was like, okay, what are the things that I love about newsletters that I consume that I want to take from, but still want to be pretty much like, let me make sure these first editions of this are really my voice and not trying to replicate what other folks are. So I was like, I want to have space to be able to write a couple paragraphs about cultural happenings that are happening in the world. So my first edition, I was in the intro talking about a lot of what we've talked about here of like pop culture is something to be taken seriously. It's fun, but it's also really revealing. And so I had an opportunity to share my opening analysis around trying to hit this sweet spot of you're going to laugh, but you're also going to take some insights. And then also writing about my thoughts on the state of Hollywood and the fact that original stories are not getting greenlit. And it is a lot of reboots, and a lot of the people running Hollywood are particularly concerned about their bottom line, but not the power of these stories and this art, especially at a time where I think art can give us insight into what can be, even if we're not currently experiencing it. So another great outlet for me to write about things that have been on my mind, again, slowly just unloading what's been in my brain for some time. So wanting to share insights about helping folks make meaning of cultural moments like that. The second edition of the newsletter, I talked all about Sinners. I'm very emotionally invested in that film's success. And then also, there's a section where I'm talking about the podcast. So using that as an opportunity to invite greater participation. So letting folks know, hey, if you get this and you can respond and you can pitch yourself as a guest, you can share that dilemma and be a part of that hotline segment. And then I love the section towards the end where it's Eteng recommends. And so it's a combination of, here's the things I'm watching that have really impacted me in a really cool way, or here's what's going on in lifestyle, like the fact that everybody loves 2016 right now. What is that all about? Here's my take on that. And so another outlet to share more long form thoughts. We're being told that people can only handle 20 seconds. And the fact that we are podcasters shows that is not the case. Yeah. And the fact that I want to take my time and write this newsletter, and people are still down to do that. I think the forces that be have a lot to gain when they tell us things about our attention span or what we have the capacity to consume in that way, especially things that are critical or are trying to make meaning of what our culture is. And another really great example of this sweet spot of experimentation, and then also newsletters are also a really great way that people find out about podcasts. And I'm also hoping that the things that I share can resonate for folks, whether they want it through audio or whether they want it through writing. So it being accessible per medium feels really exciting, that you can pick whatever avenue that you want to consume these thoughts. Also, just the last thing I'll say on that kind of confirms that so many of us are multi-hyphenates. Like, it's very rare that someone's just like, I truly only want to do audio. And so I've always been someone who's like, I want to do a lot of different things. And so like that, building this media company ecosystem, etc., confirms that I don't have to choose a lane. I can do a bunch of different things.
Yeah. It's really important, the expansion and extension of the work, building your own ecosystem. You just simply never know at the end of the day, 20, 30, 50 years from now, what in the time capsule of media people are going to come back to, right? Just like the shows in the 80s where Thursday night, 8 o'clock, we know where most of us are, right? This is something that you hope and you desire will forever live inside of what we've been creating in this time and at such a time as this. So I really appreciate all of the work that you have been doing. Really look forward to how you continue to expand and build your own ecosystem. And for folks who want to get involved, want to learn more about both your newsletter, the podcast, and any other way they can get in contact with you, please share that with us now.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been super fun. Thank you so much for having me. A couple plugs. I love a commercial moment, so consider this for comfort. The podcast that I host is available on wherever you listen to podcasts. And then Eteng's Edit, my new newsletter, you can subscribe to at etengettah.com. So that's ETENGETTAH.com. And would love to be in touch if you're excited about any collaborative moments or any opportunities. I'm definitely very much in a spirit of wanting to create and collaborate with others. So you can reach out to me on Instagram, whether my personal Instagram, Eteng with 3 G's. So that's ETENGGG. Or you can DM me on the podcast Instagram, and that's Consider Comfort Pod. So hit me up in all the different ways. I would love to hear from you all. And this has been great. And it's just the beginning. That's the fun part.
Yeah, that is the fun part, isn't it? So much work to be done. in the space, but also for those of us who just love us some good comfort TV, we know where we get to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure. So it's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you so much.